front page of the Standard talks about rift in government over maize imports. The one faction feels we should be importing, the other one feels that we have enough and just the government needs to be buying from farmers, but clearly the farmers are holding back for profits. Now, Bichachi, briefly, because we're running out of time, what do you feel about this rift and the war of words between Agriculture Minister and the Food Reserve Trust Fund boss?
First, let's just tell the Agriculture Ministry from the get-go that every time we've imported maize, it has been a scandal.
Yes.
Okay, it's always been a reason to be corrupt, and I know this because if you go to Rift Valley today, there are people who have sacks of maize that the government did not buy last year.
Yes.
This was in the news. So let's not be illogical. Unless he can prove to this country that he's bought every sack of maize from every farmer in the country, he should not bring a single ounce from Mexico, from Tanzania, from wherever, because we cannot disenfranchise the farmer to satisfy the greed of politicians who will then have to notify when we go raid.
Yeah, some who probably would stand to benefit from importation of maize. Mr. Manyasi, your take on, but before I get to you, I'd like to know what Mr. Bogo thinks about.
You know, it doesn't make sense when we say that agriculture is the backbone of this country, and yet we do not give the farmers the opportunity to actually make a living out of agriculture. The whole essence behind agriculture being the backbone of the nation is that we can farm, we can produce, and not just produce for our own consumption, but we can produce also to be able to export. So if agriculture is given such prominence in terms of one of those areas that we should focus on as a country, why don't we empower these farmers? Why don't we buy produce from these farmers? My mother is a farmer, and a lot of times she farms and she, you know, she stacks bags of maize in the house, and she wonders, what am I supposed to do with this maize? There's only so much that you can eat as a family, and you know, you will find yourself with maize rotting in the house, and yet this was an opportunity. And you know, for her, she's farming. My mother doesn't work. She's not. She doesn't have an 8 to 5 job where she goes and earns money. She's expecting to be able to make money out of this farming. You know, back in the day, we used to see farmers making a serious skill out of their produce. But then now when you don't give them an opportunity to be able to sell, and not just sell to the government, but also export this maize, then there is a problem. And you see, and for me, the challenge is that whenever we start having these discussions, and this is what usually happens, we start having these discussions, but then at the background, deals are already being made. Maize is already being imported. Let nobody lie to you that this discussion is going to involve the farmer. That at the end of the day, once this discussion ends, then the farmers will benefit. The moment we start seeing this discussion on media, the moment we start seeing the government saying, oh, you know, we need to import maize, they are already importing that maize. So farmers should, to be honest, farmers should just give up on this.
Seems like they're on their own. Now, there's a quote here by Alex Tolgos, Elgeyo Marakwet governor, who says, let the money meant for importation be set aside and be used in buying the maize from farmers at the better prices. Do you agree, Mr. Manyasi?
Absolutely, and I knew we were going to be on the same page on this one. This country uses 1.5 million bags of maize per month. We want to import 12 million bags. That means we literally want to import maize worth 8 months, 0.5. Now, why are we importing maize that takes us to April next year when you have a harvest in the next 2.5 months?
Exactly.
I mean, simple, basic mathematics. There's something we are trying to do, and what pains me most is that we have refused to subsidize farmers. But we have money to buy maize, and yet farmers are crying with maize, which we are not willing to buy. Now, it's very hard to understand why we do things the way we do them. Why the farmer, I don't know what crime the farmer of this country did. It's not just maize also, by the way. It's just, if you look at maize, whether you look at sugarcane, whether you look at coffee, whether you look at the agriculture sector, has become a business, not for farmers, not to benefit farmers, but to benefit other people. And that is a disaster that befell this country, and unless we look at it critically, in fact, now that we are talking about raids, probably DCI should be investigating and raiding someone's home, because there is information that they should be carrying, which has an impact on why this has to be done. Because I'm
it
struggling
beats
to understand
logic,
why
yeah.
we should import maize worth
Absolutely.
8 months.
And
It's
we're
not
being
just
told
possible.
that the numbers are being broken down in this article, and we are being told that the data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicates the production of maize in Kenya has an average to 40 million bags annually between 2011